I want you to close your eyes and just picture a room in absolute immersive darkness.
Right.
And slowly, this eerie emerald green glow begins to bleed into the shadows. Sitting right in the center of that room is a perfectly smooth glass jar.
And inside it is a swirling, volatile liquid.
Yeah, exactly. It's wildfire.
Yeah.
Flesh-melting, unquenchable liquid fire.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I want you to imagine staring at that jar, knowing exactly what it is, and, deciding to drink it.
I mean, the historical accounts from that night in the Forbidden Archives are profoundly disturbing. Decades after the main events we are pulling from today, a royal prince of the Targaryen dynasty actually lifted that glass to his lips.
Which is just wild to even think about.
It is, and it is vital to understand the psychology here, because this wasn't an execution, right? It wasn't some tragic accident in an alchemist's laboratory. He drank that acid willingly,
Right.
with absolute flawless conviction that he would survive it.
Wait, he genuinely believed the liquid fire wouldn't kill him. He was convinced, down to his very marrow, that the acid was just like a catalyst, a tool to burn away his weak human flesh and finally reveal the immortal, scaly dragon that had been hiding underneath his skin all along.
But reality, of course, does not bend to delusion. He collapsed into a puddle of his own melted organs, dying in unimaginable agony. And all because he simply could not accept that he was fundamentally human.
Okay, let's unpack this because, imagine the sheer colossal arrogance it takes to drink acid.
Yeah.
It's like jumping off a skyscraper because you've somehow convinced yourself your blood possesses anti-gravity properties.
Yeah.
But a human mind doesn't just snap to that level of terminal delusion overnight.
No, absolutely not. It takes years of unchecked power.
Exactly. To understand how a mind gets there, we have to look at what he did to the realm first. So, welcome to a deep dive into some truly forbidden, suppressed lore. I am your host, and as always, I am joined by our resident historian.
Glad to be here digging into the dark stuff again.
Oh, always. Our mission today is to examine the twisted, brutal history of that very Prince Aerion Targaryen, terrifyingly known as Brightflame. We're going to uncover how his unhinged ego and a completely rigged legal slaughterhouse nearly shattered an entire royal dynasty.
We really are stepping into an era where the history of Westeros is written strictly in blood and, suppressed secrets.
Yeah.
To truly grasp the pathology of Aerion Brightflame, we have to rewind the historical clock long before the wildfire incident. We need to examine him in his physical prime during a moment when his madness wasn't just self-destructive, but was actively burning down the political stability of the known world.
So the year is 209 AC. We were looking at a place called Ashford Meadow. A massive, vibrant tourney is taking place. You have to picture pavilions of silk stretching for miles, banners of Lannister lions, Tyrell roses, Baratheon stags, all just snapping in the wind under a bright blue sky.
It sounds idyllic, right?
It does. You hear lutes playing, crowds roaring, the clash of wooden lances. On the surface, it feels like this glorious medieval festival. But knowing what we know from the archives, that light, cheerful atmosphere is it's a very thin, very fragile veneer over a powder keg.
It really is. The historical context here is critical to understanding the impending violence. The entire continent is suffering from severe collective trauma at this point.
From the rebellion, right?
Exactly. They have recently survived the first Blackfire Rebellion. And this wasn't just some minor uprising. It was a devastating, bloody civil war that pitted brother against brother, and it split the noble houses right down the middle. Millions are dead, and the political soil is still soaked in paranoia.
Wow.
So the ruling Targaryen royal family has arrived at this tourney specifically to project an image of unshakable strength.
Yeah.
But beneath the pageantry, they harbor this massive, terrifying vulnerability.
Because they don't have living dragons anymore. They haven't for almost a century. Their ultimate weapons of mass destruction, the very creatures that allowed them to conquer the continent in the first place, are entirely extinct.
You can view them as, like, a nuclear superpower that has quietly lost access to its nuclear codes. Without giant fire-breathing beasts to enforce their rule and incinerate rebellions, the Targaryens are suddenly mortal.
Right.
So they have to rely entirely on public relations. They need the high lords and ladies of Westeros to view them as the absolute pinnacle of chivalry, martial superiority, and divine right. They desperately need the realm to believe the Targaryens are still inherently genetically superior to everyone else.
And enter Prince Aerion Brightflame.
Oh.
Aerion is a fascinating psychological case study because he isn't the king.
No, he's not.
He isn't even the heir to the throne. He is a second son of a fourth son. Functionally, he is quite far down the political ladder, but his ego is just astronomical.
Oh, completely out of touch with reality.
Yeah. He clings to the myth of old Valyria, that ancient fallen empire built on blood magic, and he wears his silver gold hair and deep purple eyes like actual weapons. He treats anyone without that specific ancient bloodline like they are quite literally livestock.
And his armor alone tells you everything you need to know about his psychology. He rides onto the tournament grounds wearing this magnificent, terrifying plate fashioned to resemble a dragon.
Overlapping steel scales covering his chest.
Exactly, and sharp, jagged spikes jutting from his helm. Aerion doesn't care about his family's precarious public relations strategy. He only cares about projecting his own dominance. And we see the horrifying results of this when he enters the jousting lists against a highly skilled, well-respected knight named Sir Humphrey Harding.
Right, because a joust is meant to be a highly ritualized display of martial prowess. There were rules. There's a sacred code of chivalry meant to prevent outright slaughter.
Supposed to be, anyway.
Supposed to be. But as the match begins, Aerion realizes something intolerable. Sir Humphrey is actually a match for him. This lesser man might unseat him in front of the entire realm.
Which his fragile ego simply cannot handle.
Exactly. Aerion decides, in that split second, that winning isn't enough. He has to completely break his opponent. So he lowers his lance past the knight's shield, aiming downward, and intentionally impales Sir Humphrey's barded warhorse right through his neck.
It is an act of unparalleled, sickening malice in a civilized arena. The thick wooden lance splinters deep into the animal's flesh. The horse collapses at a full gallop, dying in screaming agony, and its immense weight rolls over Sir Humphrey, completely shattering the knight's leg.
Oh, God.
In a society built on martial honor, intentionally killing an opponent's mount is a grotesque violation of the social contract.
And while the horse is bleeding out and the knight is screaming in the dirt with a crushed leg, Aerion doesn't look horrified. He doesn't, pull off his helm and offer a royal apology. He just sits atop his own mount and smirks down at the wreckage.
It's chilling.
I want to pause on this because historians love to blame this kind of sadism on the infamous Targaryen madness, pointing to their history of incest. But, is it really a magical genetic curse? Or is it just the terrifying, predictable result of giving a cruel, spoiled child absolute power and zero accountability?
That is the crux of the institutional decay we were looking at. When a ruling dynasty operates with absolute, unchecked authority, its members are never told no.
Right.
What gets mythologized as badness often looks remarkably like the natural endpoint of malignant narcissism insulated by state power. Aerion hasn't been cursed by the gods. He's been enabled by a legal framework that places his royal blood above the fundamental laws of human decency.
And a narcissist whose reality is never challenged eventually starts demanding that the world cater to their deepest insecurities, right?
Absolutely.
That psychology perfectly explains what happens next in the shadows of the Ashford smallfolk encampments.
Because the Targaryens are mortal and vulnerable, Aerion's entire identity is a massive overcompensation. His fragile ego requires the world to fear him as if he personally breathes fire. Any suggestion otherwise is perceived as a lethal threat.
So we move from the bright tournament grounds to the dirt and smoke of the peasants' tents at night. A Dornish puppeteer named Tanselle is putting on a play. It's a completely innocent, simple adaptation of an ancient Westerosi legend.
Just a local show.
Yeah. On this little wooden stage, a knight carved out of wood, operated on strings, slays a wooden dragon. It's a fairy tale.
What's fascinating here is how Aerion processes that innocent painted wood. To a normal person, it's just street entertainment. To Aerion Brightflame, a dragon losing even a fictional one is not entertainment.
No.
It is high treason. It is a direct, intolerable assault on his bloodline and his carefully manufactured reality.
So a gauntleted hand violently smashes through the puppet theater, splintering the wood into kindling. It's Aerion. But he doesn't fly into a screaming red-faced rage. He descends into this tranquil, psychotic fury.
The sheer dissonance of his reaction is what makes it terrifying. He orders his royal guards to seize this innocent puppeteer. With a chilling, almost surgical serenity, he takes Tanselle's hand and begins to systematically snap her fingers backward, one by one.
Here's where it gets really interesting. It's not a crime of passion. It's like a cold-blooded mob boss breaking fingers for a perceived slight.
Exactly.
He isn't raging at Tanselle. He's calmly performing maintenance on his own delusional ego. He is meticulously terrorizing a peasant to reinforce his internal belief that he is an untouchable god.
He is forcibly restoring order to his universe, a universe where dragons are invincible and peasants exist only to bleed. But in his supreme arrogance, Aerion assumes that the entire world operates on this twisted hierarchy.
Right.
He forgets that there are variables roaming the world that operate outside his control.
And one of those variables happens to be 7 feet tall, practically penniless, and absolutely furious. Enter Ser Duncan the Tall.
We have to understand Dunk's position in this society. He is a hedge knight. That is the absolute lowest rung of the chivalric ladder.
They have nothing.
Right, hedge knights don't own castles or lands. They sleep under hedges with nothing but a sword and a horse. They have zero political capital. But Dunk sees this innocent woman having her fingers shattered by a monster in royal armor, and he does what every knight swears a holy oath to do, but almost none actually practice. He intervenes.
It's such an incredible, visceral moment in the lore. This massive, low-born knight surges forward and tackles the royal prince right into the mud. He smashes Aerion Brightflame down and kicks him square in the mouth, loosening one of his royal teeth.
And in doing so, Dunk triggers an unstoppable legal machine. Striking a prince of the royal blood is not a misdemeanor.
No.
It is high treason, punishable by agonizing death. The moment Dunk's boot connects with Aerion's jaw, he is a dead man walking. Aerion's guards instantly swarm Dunk, beat him to his knees, and hold him down.
And see, any normal royal prince getting punched by a peasant would throw a massive screaming tantrum. But the truly terrifying part of the archive is what Aerion does next. He wipes the blood from his lip, looks at Dunk's, and his eyes are just empty.
Completely devoid of emotion.
Yeah. So what does this all mean? It means Aerion isn't enraged. He is fundamentally disconnected from human empathy.
He is genuinely confused. Aerion simply cannot comprehend the mechanics of altruism. Why would a human being throw away their own life to protect a common puppeteer?
It doesn't make sense to him.
Exactly. To Aerion's sociopathic mind, Dunk isn't a hero. Dunk is a malfunctioning tool, a piece of the world's machinery that has inexplicably acted against its programming.
So without a second thought, Aerion casually orders his guards to curb stomp Dunk's teeth out of his head right there in the dirt. And the only thing that halts this brutal execution is the sudden, shocking intervention of Dunk's young, bald squire, Egg.
A massive turning point.
Huge. Egg pushes through the guards and reveals himself to actually be Prince Aegon Targaryen Aerion's own royal cousin, traveling in secret.
Prince Aegon's reveal temporarily jams the gears of the execution, but, it doesn't solve Dunk's problem. Dunk is dragged to the dungeons, facing a formal trial for striking royalty. Knowing the noble lords acting as judges will immediately side with a prince to preserve their own status, Dunk utilizes the only legal right he has left.
A trial by combat.
Exactly. He demands a trial by combat. Let the gods decide his innocence in a duel.
But how does a narcissist win a fight he physically cannot win? Aerion knows he cannot beat a towering 7-foot-tall street brawler in a fair one-on-one sword fight. He is cruel, but he isn't stupid when his own skin is on the line.
No, self-preservation kicks in.
Right, so he rewrites the rules of the fight entirely.
Yeah.
Which brings us to the spicy plot twist.
He weaponizes the legal framework of the state against an individual. Aerion digs deep into Andal law. The Andals were ancient conquerors who brought the faith of the Seven to Westeros. Their religious texts dictate that a man can demand a trial of seven knights fighting against 7 knights.
Oh, damn.
The theology claims the gods will favor the righteous in a grand melee. It is a completely forgotten, archaic loophole, and Aerion formally demands it.
It's an unbelievable political chess move. It's like being challenged to a fistfight in an alley, and your opponent legally forces it to become a Supreme Court battle because they already own all the judges. It's brilliant, but it is pure, calculated evil.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, Aerion has used state machinery to guarantee a massacre. Aerion has the Kingsguard at his disposal.
The best fighters in the world.
Right. These are the 7 deadliest oath-bound knights in the entire realm, sworn to protect the royal family at all costs. Aerion can command the absolute apex predators of Westeros to fight alongside him.
And what does Ser Duncan have? He has no gold to hire elite sellswords, no lands to offer as a bribe, and absolutely no powerful family banners to call upon.
Furthermore, the legal trap is perfectly sprung. The law dictates that if Dunk cannot find 6 men willing to stand on the field and die for him by dawn, he automatically forfeits the trial.
Oh, man.
Aerion didn't accept a duel. He built a legal slaughterhouse, locked the door, and forced a penniless man to walk inside. It is cowardice disguised as holy tradition.
The cinematic weight of the following morning is staggering in the historical records. Dawn breaks over Ashford Meadow. The mist is clinging to the grass. A massive iron bell begins a slow, rhythmic tolling. And Dunk is standing completely alone in this massive tournament arena.
Across the muddy field, the sheer terror of the state is arrayed against him. 7 knights in gleaming armor, including members of the legendary Kingsguard in their white cloaks, mounting massive, barded war horses.
It's overwhelming.
It is the full, lethal might of the Targaryen dynasty preparing to crush one low-born man.
Dunk managed to scrape together a few brave souls who pitied him, but he is still one man short. He needs 7. The royal heralds are stepping forward, preparing to declare the trial forfeited. In absolute terrifying desperation, Dunk rides his horse before the stands. He looks up at hundreds of high-born lords and knightsmen who have sworn sacred oaths to protect the innocent, and he screams, "Are there no true knights among you?"
The silence that answers him is a devastating indictment of their society. The High Lords of Westeros are too terrified of the Targaryens' political power, too protective of their own wealth and status, to risk their necks for a peasant.
Yeah.
The chivalry they sing songs about is exposed as a hollow sham.
It's agonizing. The herald raises his horn, but then out of the river mists at the edge of the field, a single final knight rides forward.
Gives me chills every time.
Me too. He is clad in pitch-black armor, bearing a massive shield painted with the 3-headed red dragon of House Targaryen. The black-armored knight lowers his visor and takes his place beside Dunk.
We really have to understand the sheer, earth-shattering magnitude of who is inside that armor. It is Baelor Breakspear,
The Crown Prince.
the direct heir to the Iron Throne. This raises an important question, though.
Wait, yeah, I need to stop you there.
Right.
Because I genuinely don't understand this from a political perspective. Baelor is the heir to the throne. If he dies in a random mud pit defending a hedge knight, the line of succession is thrown into chaos.
Total chaos.
The realm likely falls back into a massive civil war. So how is risking thousands of lives for one penniless commoner considered a smart move? Isn't that incredibly reckless?
From a purely pragmatic standpoint, yes, it is incredibly reckless. But Baelor operates on a deeper philosophical understanding of power and justice. Baelor recognizes institutional decay. He knows that a royal dynasty that allows monsters like his nephew Aerion to torture the innocent and uses ancient laws to execute anyone who objects is a dynasty that has lost its moral right to rule.
Oh, wow.
Baelor is stepping onto that field to send a message to the entire continent. The laws of justice must apply to the dragons, too.
He is literally drawing his sword against his own family, his own bloodline, to defend the man from the slums. It completely radically incinerates Aerion's entire twisted worldview.
Exactly.
Aerion believes royals are untouchable gods. And here is the future king, the absolute pinnacle of the Valyrian bloodline, laying his life on the line and treating a hedge knight as an equal.
By stepping into that brutal 14-man melee, Baelor essentially puts his own body into the gears of Aerion's corrupt legal machine to break it.
It is an earthquake of a historical moment.
Rawr.
And it perfectly encapsulates everything we've uncovered in this deep dive. Aerion Brightflame represents the absolute, unchecked worst of this society.
He really does.
The entitlement, the breathtaking sadism, and the cancerous delusion that the laws of men do not apply to him. A delusion so deep he eventually drank wildfire.
And this lore matters to you, the listener, because it is a masterclass in the mechanics of power. It demonstrates exactly how legal frameworks and revered traditions can be twisted by the corrupt to protect the guilty and punish the righteous.
Right.
The system was functioning exactly as designed to insulate Aerion. It took a monumental act of rebellion from the highest authority in the land to find a single shred of justice.
Baelor Breakspear risked the entire future of the known world and his own flesh and blood to stand with a nobody. So as we close the archives on this dark chapter, I want to leave you with a final thought to mull over on your own.
Let's hear it.
In a world utterly obsessed with magical bloodlines, purity, and the myth of the dragon, does true nobility actually come from the ancient blood flowing in your veins? Or does it come from your willingness to shed that blood for someone the world tells you is beneath you? Next time you picture that emerald green wildfire, remember, it wasn't the fire that made them great, it was what they were willing to burn for.